How's it going, everybody? Summit here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Ashe, specifically his 4th ability, Bladestorm. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about Ashe on YouTube, however, most videos are focused around his smoke screen and shuriken, so I thought I'd mix it up a bit, and I've decided to min-max his Bladestorm, and I'll be showing you guys how to hit tens of millions of damage with it. And to fully test how far this could go, we took Ashe into a survival and used Bladestorm as the main source of damage and managed to do over 3 hours and 20 minutes with it. So you'll be seeing that gameplay towards the end of this video. But without further ado, let's get right into the mechanics behind this. So unmodded, Ashe's Bladestorm will deal 2000 finisher damage and then 10 ticks of slash damage, each dealing 43.75% of the initial damage. This is affected by both power strength and the melee combo counter. So for example, at 300% power strength and a 3.0 combo counter, you'd be doing 2000 times 1 plus 2 times 3, or 18,000 damage just on the initial hit. And then 18,000 times 0.4375 gives us 7,875 damage for every tick over 10 ticks. It's also important to remember this damage is only on one enemy with one mark, and you're able to mark each enemy up to 3 times, essentially tripling your DPS versus that particular enemy. Another interesting to note here is that the combo counter buff from the Vanco Prime also applies to the Bladestorm. This will allow you to stack the combo counter 50% faster than if you were using a regular melee weapon. Okay, so now I'm just going to quickly go over both the builds for Ashe and the Vanco Prime. So on the Vanco Prime, I was running essentially this. Essentially, this build is just built around building combo counter as fast as physically possible. When focused on the stance, you want to stay away from Forward Riders, as you have a lot of problems with building the combo, as Forward Riders tends to knock enemies over and knock them away from you, which you don't really want. You want them right next to you, right on you, so you can hit them as many times as possible to keep that relentless combination up and build the combo as fast as you can. So either Vermilion Storm or Malicious Raptor, either one of these stances work, either one will work great. I personally prefer Vermilion Storm a little bit more, but if you don't have Vermilion Storm, Malicious Raptor will work just fine. Now, when it comes to the actual mods on here, I got a lot of things built for both attack speed, range, and most importantly, combo duration. Everything, honestly, all you gotta do is just put on as many combo duration mods as you can to make sure that your combo counter stays on there as long as possible, so you don't have to ever reset it. Weeping Wounds is on here just to increase the status chance, so my probability of getting slash damage is greatly increased as I'm building the combo so fast. Now, when that happens, obviously with Relentless Combination, I'm sure most of you already know that a slash stats, whenever you proc one, it'll add to the combo counter, so you'll be getting a ton of different slash procs and building combo counter really fast. And within, honestly, like, it only takes like 2 or 3 minutes in the mission to build it up. I'm going to show you right here. It took me around like 40 seconds to build up the combo counter just with this build. Now, you can use other melee weapons, but in general, you want to be using the Vanco for that extra 50% bonus damage, essentially, and you build your combo 50% faster. So it's, in general, it's just a better, the best, well, yeah, you can probably say it's the best melee for a Bladestorm Ashe build. When it comes to Ashe, this is what I happen to be using. Again, you can modify this build however you want, but all you really got to focus on is just have efficiency there so you can keep hitting enemies. You want a ton of strength and a little bit range. Like, I mean, 100% is fine, honestly, for most spots that you're going to be camping in. The growing power as the aura, this is pretty essential because you can get up to 100% extra power strength for everyone in your team if everyone's running growing power, as they do stack. I know a lot of people say they don't, but growing power definitely stacks. So that's 100% extra like power strength for everyone in your group, and that's amazing because you don't even need corrosive projection, right, when you're fighting armored enemies, because you're dealing finisher damage and you're dealing slash damage, both of which completely ignore armor, and you'll be doing enough damage to kill well into the levels, like high into the thousands. So this is pretty much my build. Obviously, it's built around strength and efficiency. If you got some more forma than I do in Ashe and you decide to modify this however you want, feel free to do so. So now moving on over to the other 3 frames that we happen to be using to buff Ashe. Now you can modify this slightly to however you're liking. Like for the actual survival run that we did, we weren't running a 3rd buffer frame. Well, I mean, kinda, but it's Necro, so he's on a different level when it comes to buffs. Now, we were using for this basically Excalibur, Chroma, and a Rhino. The Rhino is obviously there for his Roar, just build that for strength and duration. I'm sure most of you guys know how to build Roar, and the interesting thing about Roar, if you don't already know, is that it'll double dip into /DOT. So you essentially get the Roar buff twice on the DOT, which means that the DOT will actually be doing more damage than the initial hit. However, you got to go really, really far in to even see this, because you're just going to be killing everything on the initial hit. Now, when it comes to Chroma, he's pretty cool because since his new buff, since he can like help teammates out, which is kind of useful even though he got nerfed so unbelievably hard, his new buff can apply to Ashe's Bladestorm and some other Warframe abilities like Mace's Peacemaker and other things like that. But essentially, because Ashe's Bladestorm is considered to be a weapon in a sort of way, pretty much you'll gain the extra damage boost from Chroma, and obviously Chroma can hit 10 times damage pretty easily. So you're already at like 3 times for Rhino and a 10 times buff from Chroma, or I mean from Rhino it's more like a 9 times buff on DOT, so you're at like 90 times damage there. And I'll actually go into all the math explaining this, and we're going to assume a 300% flat strength bonus. And then the third frame is actually Excalibur, which is a little bit weird as you wouldn't really expect him to be a buffer frame, but since he has an augment which is called Radial Finish, which will give you 300% extra damage on finishers, and because every single attack in Bladestorm is considered to be a finisher, you'll get that extra 4 times damage. And the cool thing about that mod is that it's actually also affected by power strength, so you can get a huge buff from that. Now you can also do the same thing, as you probably know about Savage Silence, you can do the same thing with that. However, Banshee is so good, it's almost like you're cheating. So we didn't use Banshee, as obviously you'd just be hitting the damage cap on every single initial slash proc, and you'd just be killing everything in one hit, so it's not even that interesting, because you're obviously getting buff from both Savage Silence and Sonar. However, I mean, yeah, it doesn't even matter at that point. But anyways, let's get into the mathematics behind Bladestorm's damage. For those who don't really care about math, you can skip ahead on this bit and check out the gameplay of the rest of the 3-hour run. Just as a disclaimer, I'm going to assume that the power strength for all Warframes is 300%. Obviously, some frames might have a little bit more than others, and others a little less, but most well-equipped teams should be around this number. I'm also going to assume that everyone's running Growing Power, as all the base polarities match it, and there's no reason to run Corrosive Projection, as you're going to be completely ignoring armor. So let's start with Ashe. Also, note that I'll be separating the initial damage and the tick damage, as the formulas are slightly different. So we have 2000 base damage on Ashe and 875 tick damage. So at base, it's 300% power strength plus 100 extra percent power strength from Growing Power, so it gives you 400% power strength, which can be assumed for all frames here. So 2000 at base times 4 gives us 8000, and then 875 times 4 gives us 3500 damage a tick. Next, we'll assume a 5.5 times multiplier, as that's pretty easy to hit with the Venka, and I was hitting it consistently during the mission. So 8,000 times 5.5 gives you 44,000, and 3,500 times 5.5 gives you 19,250. Add in an Excalibur, so it's times 4 at base with his augment, so 300% bonus damage is just 4 times damage, and then you multiply that by 4 again, giving you a total of 16 times damage. 16 times 44,000 gives you 704,000 damage on the initial, and then 19,250 actually is not affected. Again, the tick damage is not affected by Excalibur, it's only the initial damage. So later on, if you really want to go for the most optimized build, Nova will be slightly better than Excalibur later on, because not only does she increase the status duration, but she also increases the tick damage more than Excalibur will. And you can either use Excalibur is going to be better early on because you're going to be killing the enemies faster, but Nova will be better in like if you're going super late game. But it's kind of up to you and whatever you want to run. Also, you'd have to be running Slow Nova, as Speed Nova would probably actually reduce the damage as you're reducing the number of ticks. Anyways, but now with Chroma, again, to figure out the power strength with some of these frames, or just the multiplier, is going to be a little bit weird. Essentially, the formula is 1 plus power strength times whatever, 1 plus the base multiplier times your power strength. So in Chroma's instance, it'd be 1 plus 2.75 times 4, giving us 12 times damage. So 704,000 times 12 gives us 8,448,000 damage, and then 19,250 times 12 gives us 231,000 tick damage. And now finally, Rhino's Roar, who will double dip into the /DOT. So we apply the multiplier from Roar twice onto the DOT and just apply it once to the base damage. So it's 1 plus 0.5 times 4, giving us 3 times damage from Rhino. So 8,448,000 times 3 gives us 25 million damage, and 231,000 times 3 to the second, or 3 times 3, or times 9, gives us 2,079,000 damage for every single tick over 10 ticks. Now, it's also important to note that this is also per mark, so you can mark each enemy up to 3 times, so you're going to be doing a lot more damage in this, like just single target DPS in this, so you can take it out well into the thousands just with this setup. So we're moving back on over into the gameplay here. As you can see, we're about 190 minutes into the mission, and they're right around level 2000 or so. And you can see I'm doing a lot more damage with my Ashe. I also have like 13,000 health, and Roy's giving me like a 100% bonus, and that's all because of Necros. Instead of running the usual, oh, let's do Excalibur, let's do Nova, we decided to run Necros with Soul Punch, because right now he's the strongest buffer frame in the entire game. So if you didn't know that, I definitely pick up a Necros and just put negative power strength on the Soul Punch, and then you're all set to go. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave you with the rest of the gameplay, as I'm going to shut up now. If you haven't already checked out the Discord, I highly suggest you join. And as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching the video.